Thank you for anyone who sits through the opening. It is 54 seconds of pure magic and love. Welcome to Horror Movie Massacre, presented by the Horror Syndicate. If you have not been here before, well, congratulations, you're here. Hit the like button. If you've never been to the YouTube channel, please go subscribe to the YouTube channel. We want more subscribers, and it could be you. Could be you. Tonight, Seth and I are going to discuss a couple of movies as we continue to trek through the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, beginning with the 2003 remake, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and its prequel, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, which I gotta say, I watched them back to back for the first time ever, with The Beginning being first. So make sure you hit that like button so we can know that you're here and you know that you like us. Seth just disappeared. So Seth will be joining us momentarily. So next week we are doing the last two Texas Chainsaw movies that we have not done yet, which include the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Texas Chainsaw, I should say, and Leatherface from 2017. And then the following week we'll be doing our rankings. Before we do anything else, so Seth will be back at some point, hopefully. I will go ahead and read some comments because Sean wrote a book. Richard says hello. What's up, everyone? What's up? Uh, that was all. Thanks, Sean. The remake is not better than TCM 73. There is no TCM 73. It was released in 1974. I give both 3 out of 5. What I like about the remake, I love Arlie Ermy as Hoyt, Andrew Berneris, I can't even pronounce his name, so I'm not gonna. As Leatherface, he was not good as Leatherface in my opinion. I love the it captures the feel of no, it does not. 1974. I guess it was filmed in 73. It's way too modern. This is way too modern for a film set in the 70s. Love Jessica Biel much better than Sally from 74. The rest of the kids, they all suck, even Jessica Biel. Um, now this makes me sound bad, but it's just a movie to showcase her body, which she's got a great body, but that's pretty much all this movie was. And the kids are very scummy. How they want to leave the poor girl who shot herself on the side of the road. Yeah, I don't know how I'd handle that situation. I enjoyed the remake. I thought the prequel was okay. The prequel's way better than the remake, in my opinion. Let's see. Although still they are not cringeworthy and annoying like Franklin. Nobody is as annoying as Franklin, Sean. We know this. Franklin's the most. He's one of the most annoying characters in horror film history. Let me know if you can figure somebody else out that's not called Bob from House by the Cemetery. Overall, remake is not perfect. It has good tension. I disagree. Characters like Hoyt and Leatherface are. Eh, Hoyt, Arlie Ermy kind of steals the show, in my opinion. The beginning, I think, is the best in the series. It has the best gore, but best Leatherface, and it has likable characters. I agree with most of that. It's not the best. I I I haven't watched it in a long time, and so I watched it this time, and I watched it before the remake, and I liked them a little bit better, both of them, because watching them that way, and I absolutely suggest doing that because they're filmed so close together. Oh two for the filming, I believe, and oh 06, oh 05, something like that. A couple years apart, and they look very similar. They feel very similar, but the beginning, I think, is better, and it has story and something to say about war. Are you a coward if you don't go to war, or should we go to war in the first place? He says one key line that I agree with: the Vietnam, the Viet Cong. He has nothing against them. So why would you go if you? I mean, it wasn't even. It was you're not your war because you're British, I think. But yeah, that was a war we probably didn't belong in as Americans. What war can do? Yeah, yeah. It's a. I like the beginning quite a bit. I think this time around it really had more of a howdy, uh, not an effect on me. My wife and I went and saw it in the theater, and she was just becoming a state patrol officer. And that scene with the cow at the beginning, she saw that happen. Like no, not the actual accident, but she had to report. This is up in northern Illinois, but there was a report of a cow with guts all over the road and an overturned truck and all this different stuff. She saw that, so it pretty much fucked her up. I mean, she couldn't even watch that movie. She just kind of sat there and just it was 2006, so she couldn't play with her phone. That's something I would like to do. Watch the beginning first, and to that. I absolutely recommend doing that. If you're not a fan of the 2003 movie, I think this sheds more light on why 2003 can be a decent movie. It kind of it's like I always talk about like when Halloween came out in 2018. Will Halloween Kills make it better for me or make it worse? Well, the beginning actually makes the 2003 movie better in my opinion. Um, yes, he did. He carried both movies. The prequel destroys the remake in every way. Yes, absolutely, 100%. I agree with that. Seth is here. Seth, you staying this time? Might have a delay. As much as I like the remake, I see people put it high on their list and the beginning low on their list. That makes no sense to me. Yeah, I may have to do the show alone, guys and girls. Remakes take big chances in being well received, especially by fans of the originals. TCM was a win. It was because it made a lot of money. Also, the DVD release with I have that the fold out chainsaw packaging. I got that. They were doing a special at the Best Buy. If you bought that, you get the original movie for free. And I had the original, but I didn't have the copy they were giving away. So yeah, that was a pretty cool deal. It's like $30 too back then, which was kind of high, but you get that for 4K now. I like the 2003 version. The camera angle from the gunshot wound that's the best part of the movie. Wound to the back of the head from the van, from the smoke coming out. Yeah, that was probably one of the highlights of the movie. It went down, in my opinion, went downhill from there because I wasn't a big fan of what they did. So they had when you make a remake, you can't just remake the exact same movie, and I get that. With let's just get into it, and I have a bad feeling Seth's not gonna be in it. So hey, let's talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003, and we'll start with that. The damn uh, oh yeah, I've watched the original 100 times before I watched the remake. But anyway, the we get a hitchhiker. We get my problems with it. I started writing an article for the horrorsyndicate.com. If you've never check it out. The horrorsyndicate.com. We have tons of stuff up there. But part of my problem was how polished this movie looked. It didn't look grimy. The kid from The Ring was in it, and he had these fake teeth that were obviously put over his teeth, and he was just a part of the movie that was terrible. But the hitchhiker, they had to change it. I like the way they changed it. In the theater, the first time I hold the original Texas Chainsaw on a very high pedestal. It's one of the greatest horror films. It's legendary. Period. Regardless of how you feel, you got to admit, even if you hate a movie like Halloween, you got to give it respect and say that's legendary because they are legendary. And I think that uh, okay, I thought I heard from some. I think that going in, as I said, in 2003, by the way, as my wife and my first date ever, and she was sitting next to me as I was getting angry at the movie because I did. I got really angry at the movie because I guess at the time I had a checklist of things I was hoping that they would at least try to recreate. And one of the things they didn't recreate was the hitchhiker. They did their own thing. I just didn't care for it. I didn't care for the girl, the actress. She pulls a goddamn gun out of her vagina and then shoots herself in the brain. Um, yeah, the camera work was really cool, but like, oh yeah, that's great. I mean, that's That's a great take for any remake really or any movie, especially that time. But I don't know. Yeah, it looked grimy, but it was polished grimy. It looked like it didn't. Nothing looked like it was real. It definitely looked like it was all staged. Where the original movie was completely grimy. I mean, put them side by side. You could one of them looks like a home video, which makes it all the more terrifying in my opinion. The other one has. I mean, in 2003, people were dressing like that. In 2003, people wore their hair the same way as these people. They didn't look like it was from they were from the 70s at all. They were in the hot Texas sun, and that's the other thing I put in my article is in the original movie you can feel how hot it was outside. This one not so much, in my opinion. I think they tried to go too hard into the 70s, but it still looked like 2003 because in 2003 people were dressing the same way. So especially the hip hugger jeans that Jessica Biel was wearing, which again, don't get me wrong, she's hot, but they all looked like they were fresh out of 2003. Even the guy with the giant neck, Morgan or whatever, he was the worst part of the movie in my opinion. Well, no, the little kid was. And the tunnel system, that they use a tunnel system that we saw later in Friday the 13th. What's the deal with that? In the remake of Friday the 13th, I noticed that this time I was watching. I was like, oh, she's using a tunnel to escape. Are these the same tunnels Leatherface uses? Like Jason Voorhees in the 2009 remake? Christ almighty, come up with another idea, Marcus Nispel. Um, it did look like a documentary, and that's one of the things about it. Seth is trying to connect. I really hope he can because he had trouble connecting on a Romero show over the weekend, and he was having some trouble. They just went through a rash of storms. You might have been better sitting. So I think you're right. I wonder how that would go. I know we've seen modern day Texas Chainsaw Massacres, like the '86 movie was present day, but like 2013, I believe, was supposed to be present day because they had cell phones and shit like that. But yeah, I think based on the way they looked, you couldn't tell it was the '70s. The cars was about the only tell for me. Seth, what do you think? You working yet? Okay, I think we got Seth
So
back.
far, I guess.
Well, I can hear you. So
So
we're just talking about some of the reasons I don't like the 2003 movie. What are your overall views on this one? What do you like? What do you don't like?
I've always actually really liked the remake very much. Like I love the original, but like I never was so attached to it where I was offended by a remake happening. And I feel like the remake, they did stuff differently with it. Um, like we talked about before with the original films where he kind of like
You muted yourself somehow. Oh, it says your mic isn't connected. What the hell? Uh-oh. I think Seth's getting angry. I don't blame him. Okay, you're on mute now. Now you're mute. Your system is pure evil. One thing I think he might end up talking about is that there is a family aspect to this movie that was kind of missing, and not missing, but yeah, missing from the 2022 movie. So it's got that over the 2022 movie. Um, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with Seth's equipment. Aren't you right by the router or something like that now?
right fucking next to it. And
Right
now
next to it.
I can't even connect to the internet like in the basement. Like if I go down, if I want to listen to music at night, I go down to my basement, won't connect to my phone at all.
What the hell? It's like
Anyway,
ever since the
I
storm
do
happened.
really.
Go ahead, man.
I don't know. I do really like the remake quite a bit. I do like how it's very gritty and grimy and very brutal. And I think it's overall it's a decent remake. It's nowhere near as effective as the original, and I do prefer the prequel over the remake. But I think the remake, I've always thought it was pretty solid.
Have you ever watched them back to back, beginning before the remake?
I don't think I've done that.
This was the first time I did it, and I gotta say this would be my preferred way to do it. Uh, I hated Morgan. What are some of the things that characters you liked about the? Because everybody keeps saying it's gritty and grimy. It looks way too polished to be gritty and grimy to me, especially if you compare it to the original movie. I was saying while you were gone that I think uh, the actors and the way they look, they don't portray 1970s
Well,
at all.
what are you saying?
That's just like 7 second delay. But I don't think they because I swear to God I saw girls wearing the same shit Jessica Biel was wearing in 2003. And the haircuts they didn't do a good enough job to make it look like it was the 70s. And the other thing I don't like is they had Sweet Home Alabama at the beginning of the movie. It's like that kind of takes me out of this movie a little bit. You know that I think that was their this is the 70s. Here's Sweet Home Alabama, a song from that time, so you'll know. And I just kind of like bullshit filmmaking. And I still the kid from The Ring really irritates me in this movie. Yeah, I thought Morgan was terrible. I don't like that actor either. You just want to do the scores, because I think you'll be rather surprised by my score. Maybe not. Might be lower than what you expect. Because if you want, you can just say whatever you want, and I can wait.
Well, I was gonna say is like it's not gritty in terms of like the way that the film looks or anything. It's not like the original, but like they're like just with the color palette, just the way it's kind of a nasty looking film and I think it works for this movie.
It's just like what they did for Superman Returns. They just put a yellow filter over it, made everything brown. You know, I don't think they even used a filter in the original movie. I don't know. Everybody's looks sweaty, and there's a few key scenes that I like that I really like, but I still feel like that feeling of family is
Yeah,
not as evident in this one. It is, but isn't.
I don't know, like it, like with everyone being all sweaty and just with the color palette and just with the kind of the visual nastiness. I don't know. It just it I don't know. It I think it was more believable, Bulgaria or whatever.
That's okay. You don't have to like the ring. Um, I don't know. It's I take that idea that I had about Halloween Kills if it made Halloween 2018 better. And when I watched this after the 2006, the beginning, I did like this a little bit better. I will say that. I don't know how that if that makes me. I don't know what that makes me. An asshole, probably. Let's just do the scores. Seth, here's your score for this movie. Look at these teens straight out of the 70s. 78% for Seth. You want
Yeah,
to try to elaborate on that?
I mean, I could try. I don't know how good it's gonna do with my fucking connection, but yeah, I mean, I don't have any of the issues that you have with the movie, and I think, especially in comparison to at least the one before it, it's much better. I think Leatherface is brutal. Um, for the most part, I thought the cast was fine. I really loved Arlie Ermy in his role. I personally, I thought the uh, the kills were brutal. The effects were good. Um, I like the score from Steve Jablonsky. Um, I just and I think it's pretty entertaining for a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. I think it's one of the better ones in the series. I mean, it's not like it's really a great series to begin with, um, but it's like my fifth favorite in the series.
You're right, though. It's really not a great series overall. um, for me, I'd rate it higher. Okay. So 50%. You just said it was 3 out of 5. That's 60%. The dinner with the teeth pulling in the beginning. That's one of my favorite parts. So my score is much lower, but higher than I expected. I gave it a 61%. Um, there's a lot about this movie I just don't like. The cast is the number one problem for me, but especially Jessica Biel. She's barely believable as a human being, in my opinion, sometimes. And I think anyone else cast in that role, because for me, she was too, I guess, well known, and that kind of bothered me. I mean, Erica Lershan, however you say it, she was in Book of Shadows. I remember her from that. And then the driver was in a couple of things. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I remember him in that, and something else. I think it was 6 Feet Under. But like that was one of the things that made the first original one so genuine to me was that I knew nobody in this movie, and I
Yeah, it was.
Arlie Ermy is fantastic, but I'd love to see somebody else in this movie because he's too well known for me. I used to watch Mailbag all the time. Um, it's okay. That's all I can really say about it. It's okay for me. I, I don't think I hate it as much as I used to. I really like the scene where the dude he's hanging by the hook, and she's trying to like get him off of the hook, and he decides to just kill me. I like that. I thought that was a good scene. But I don't know. Jessica Biel is my biggest problem with this movie. She's super hot and everything, but like, come on, she's not a very good actress, and she just I don't know. She didn't sell it for me. But this is I told you, Sean, this wasn't gonna be my lowest score. The one before this is the worst one ever. Hey, yes, it's messier than Halloween. Halloween, at least Halloween gives you like definitive timelines. This jumps around everywhere, and it's got a remake and then a prequel, and it's got a three sequels kind of, and then there's also the 2013 movie, which is a sequel to the original movie, which really should have been a sequel to this, but they chopped Leatherface's fucking arm off like idiots. And then the 2017 movie is a prequel to the original movie. Why? What the fuck are they thinking? And then 2022 is a sequel to the original movie. It's like, what are you doing? Like, can't we? Why can't we figure this out for this series?
Well, Leatherface 2017 is connected to the Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Right. With the original being sandwiched in between that and the Leatherface movie. Wow. I guess you won't be watching our next couple shows. We'll be doing those three Halloween movies. starting in August. It's my number three in the series. It's mostly bad. The whole series is mostly bad movies, but 61% for me, which gives us a grand total of. Oh, by the way, I hate his look. I do not like it at all. It looks like he's wearing a Halloween mask. But 70% overall, it's okay. And I didn't like seeing him without his mask on. That's another thing that bothered me with the missing nose and shit. He did have one scene, Seth. We talked about one of the problems with some of the other Leatherface portrayals was the original. He was always scared. This one, there was one scene in this movie where he does do like cower in the corner because he's like kind of freaks out at what he had done. I guess I didn't recognize that the first couple times, but this time I did, and I was like, oh, there you go. I wonder if that pleases Seth.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, though, it feels out of place for this character, especially if you watch the beginning before
Hmm.
the this remake, because this Leatherface, the Tommy Hewitt version of Leatherface, is so much different than the previous versions of Leatherface. He's much more of a brute. He's much more of a he takes the initiative himself. I mean, he kind of if you count the prequel, like he gets everything rolling by killing his former boss at the at the place there, and
Hmm.
yeah, he's a lot more vicious in this. The Tommy Hewitt version of Leatherface isn't the type that kind of cowers, so like it does kind of seem out of place.
Well, it's funny. Like there were moments that he kind of reminded me of the Leatherface from the 1990 Leatherface movie. Uh, like because he was very much proactive and kind of there are times like he's down in the basement
Well,
being left there most
he's
of
got that. Yeah, he has that. I don't know. He has that sort of physical presence like he did in uh, the 1990
hmm
Leatherface,
Yeah,
but
sure, for sure.
at the same time too that's literally because I mean that's when New Line that's when New Line kind of came in and took over the character, and this is that beginning with the 1990 movie. That's where Leatherface was kind of starting to be positioned into that slasher icon type role. So like they were making him more like Jason and all that.
Yeah, because that's what they wanted. Absolutely. Our followers gives this one a 73%, which really is kind of right on the money with what we did. So I think our scores aren't too bad overall. 73% from the Horror Syndicate Facebook followers. Not too bad overall. I want to thank anyone who got on Facebook and did the 5-star rating for these movies to help us out. Is there anything else you want to say about this one, Seth, before you take a drink of your beer?
Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna move on to the beginning because I think this one is a way better movie, and he's got the mask that makes sense on right away. Sean mentions I love the mask in this from the beginning, and I like I guess the first flesh mask that he makes is Matt Bomer's, which is cool. But let's dive into this one. What about this one works for you? Because you're working. You just got a little bit of a delay for me. Just what do you tell me all about this one? What do you like about this one?
Well, for starters, I think it feels a little bit more like Texas Chainsaw Massacre than the remake
Yeah.
did. Um, and it's not necessary to show us how Hoyt became Hoyt, or how um, what's his name, his uncle there, how he lost his legs,
Mm-hmm.
not necessary stuff. But at the same time, I remember being in the theater for this one and just loving the way it was just kind of connecting all the pieces together. I also really like. I think the story works for this one. Introducing you have the two couples, and the guys are supposedly going to Vietnam, but one wants to um,
Draft
to
dodge.
ditch on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that aspect of it. Yeah. And this one is from one of the writers of this one is one of the writers of the 1990 film,
Oh,
and
didn't know
I could
that.
kind of tell it does kind of have a little bit of it does have a little bit of a similar I think vibe in certain areas of it, but and not to mention too, I love the way that this movie ends. Um,
Mm.
I thought it was kind of like a great ending, and they really shot themselves in the Platinum Dunes people. They shot themselves in the foot with cutting off Leatherface's arm in the remake because
Yes.
they had nowhere to go but backwards, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's like they, you know, what they did, I think, was pretty sad. I liked the Hewitt family, um, for the most part, and especially Arlie Ermy. So I just kind of wish that the remake itself wasn't so definitive with its ending because they could have kept going with it.
Yeah,
But
you're right.
yeah, I think the beginning is it's a lot of fun. It's fucking brutal. Um, it's got some really gnarly kills in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I much prefer the beginning to the remake. This is my fourth favorite in the series.
Yeah, I agree with you in a lot of ways. They did paint themselves into a corner, really, by sequel proofing the 2003 movie. They killed off Hoyt. They fucking chopped Leatherface's arm off. You can't wield a chainsaw one handed. Well, Dennis Hopper can, but it's they fucked up. It's like you make movies like this to make sequels, and so yeah, they have nowhere to go but but the thing is there's 5 years between this one and the remake. Why not make another one in between? It kind of always bugged me, and I kind of thought that's what the Texas Chainsaw 3D was going to be, because it kind of, the trailers had the look and feel of what they presented in these two movies. But no, when I saw it, I was like, wait, this looks like the beginning, or around the house from the other movie. It's like, what the fuck. We'll get into that next week, hopefully. Uncle Morty, yes.
Yeah, well,
Monty.
that's yes, Uncle Monty. That's it. Yeah, I think that's mainly because of like the rights change in between. So
Yeah.
the people whoever took over the rights, they weren't going to do the Platinum Dune stuff. Um, but yeah.
I
Now, if I
agree with
remember
this
correctly, it wasn't.
comment. Say
What's
again.
that? What were you saying?
I said I like this could have been a good reboot series of a few movies, but yeah, cutting his arm off fucked that up. What were you gonna say?
Um, I don't remember.
Okay. How about a cyborg arm? There's always space. Absolutely. Uh, but I'm glad they never went that route with Leatherface. That makes zero sense.
But if I
No,
remember correctly, though, there was like a 4-year gap between
it said from 1969 to
story wise.
1974. Yeah, from 1969 to 1974. Not this, Sean. We know that. It's
Oh, I
something
thought
like
they
that, or
said.
1968. Yeah,
I,
there's like 5 or 6 years between the beginning and the remake, so they could have got they could. What if the next Texas Chainsaw movie goes back to these movies and rehires that Leatherface and makes a tweener to make it a trilogy? Because they could have made a tight trilogy out of these movies, you know?
yeah. Well, the prequel is set in '73, if I remember correctly. So I think
Okay,
it is a
so
4-year gap.
I think the remake says it
But
then,
there's
because
still there's still plenty of room.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And it's shit. It's just I hate this thing with rights in horror movies because we've seen there's problems with the Halloween, the Hellraiser series, now Friday the 13th, and I mean all of them have rights problems that fuck everything up because yeah, 2009 we could have saw another movie, but whatever. We got these, and I mean I'll be honest, man. I really enjoyed watching both of these movies back to back. If you got 3 hours to spare and you want to watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, the 2000s movies are not that bad back to back, though. I don't think I could watch the prequel, I mean, the remake by itself. That's true. What year did he die, though? He died in the teens, didn't he? I can't remember when he died. I thought he died like not.
Yeah, I mean, he died well after.
He died in 2018. They could have made another movie with him. Yeah,
Yeah.
a trilogy would have been cool, but yeah, now there's no way to do it because of Arlie Ermy. That's what Sean's saying. Yeah, that's a good point. Um, but yeah, because we know we're gonna get another movie. I just don't know what we're gonna get. It's probably gonna be on the heels of that last one we got, which really, I'll be honest with you, like I liked the 2022 movie better than both of these. I think I have to rework my ranking now because watching these back to back changed my whole perspective on these two movies. I'm not even joking. That's why when we were talking earlier, I mentioned that, and I'm writing an article for the Horror Syndicate now, a 20-year later review of the Texas Chain, me doing watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I still don't love it though. There's still a lot of issues with it that bother me, but I can't wait to do the scores because they're going to blow your fucking mind. By the way,
Well, it's we talk about how it'd been nice to have a trilogy, and it'd been nice if they kept going. But at the same time, I mean, it's a pretty tight two film story. It has a beginning, middle, and end in a way.
yeah.
So I feel like the Platinum Dunes era, it had a definitive ending. You could say that, and
It's
I think they work, especially in the way that you watched them. Where you watched the prequel
yes.
first and then you watched the remake. I think that's a really good way of watching them, and I think it just makes it a nice tight little story set of TCM stories within the franchise.
Which I'm curious where they're going to go with the next movie after 2022 because they're like Leatherface is now alone in that town. Well, he left the town. He went to his house, but he's now who's there? That's my biggest question with that. You're right about these. They have a definitive beginning, middle, and end. But I'd love to have had a middle chapter movie though.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, me too. I'm just saying that
yeah,
it, even though it doesn't, it kind of works the way it is.
it does. It's a nice 3 hour block of movies to watch. And to be honest with you, I mean the first two movies are the best two movies. Correct me if I'm wrong. And they're both standalone for their decade. We got the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974. You've
You're
got
right.
TCM2 1986. Then you got the 90s era, the New Line era, where you got 1990 Leatherface, and then you got the abysmal Next Generation, and then you got the Platinum Dunes era, the 2000s, and then you got the stripper porn people that made Leatherface and Texas Chainsaw 3D, and now you got the Netflix era, and it's probably going to be end up being just two movies, just like. So it's kind of fun that we have those. I never thought about that until now, but there are distinct eras. And the weird thing about it was the 2 decades, because we haven't not had a decade without a Texas Chainsaw Massacre since, well, we didn't have one in the 60s. Psycho kind of counts in a way. Not really, but being Ed Gein being the
Yeah.
the whatever.
The thing with the 2022 the Netflix era is like I don't really care to see old man Leatherface.
Me neither. Me neither. Yeah, me neither. I agree with you on that. But by time the next one releases, Leatherface will be over 60, like the as far as the film franchise, or 50. Sorry, because next year will be the 50th anniversary of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and at that point he's got to be in his 60s or 70s, you know. And like we saw an old lady Sally, and who gave a fuck? She got thrown right in the trash. I don't think we need anything like that. But I guess we'll see. So you ready to get blown away by these scores? So we'll start with yours. You have an 80% on the beginning. No, that they probably shouldn't even make another one. But you gave this an 80%. Can you're muted again? Is there any way you can comment on this?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah,
I don't know why it keeps fucking up and refreshing on its own, and I'm muted my mic. So yeah, I think it's entertaining. I think it's better. It's got a better story. It's better written. I like the way that they connected all the pieces together for the first one, or I mean for the remake, and I love the way it ends. I think this was a good and sort of necessary film that works well with the remake. And that's all I'm gonna say before my shit fucks up again. It's got good kills, good effects. I like the and from Jablonski, um, and I think it's just a much better film. Feels much more like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and yeah, it was cool seeing this on the big screen.
yes. I got to see it on big screen too. I gave it an 80% as well. Can you believe it? On this series, we seem to tie each other. Uh, yeah, Arlie
Oh
Ermy was
wow!
off the chain in this. We got a dinner scene. We got some fun bikers. This is a different movie. It's not the same. Oh, we got these people driving through Texas. They pick up a hitchhiker. No, they run into a fucking cow. We get the birth of Leatherface, which is kind of gross, and that was an interesting scene, by the way. That I don't think we even mentioned is him being he's a dumpster baby, and yeah, Arlie Ermy. We didn't need to see all that stuff, but I actually liked that seeing him get how he became the sheriff, and now knowing he's not actually the sheriff or whatever of whatever town it is. But good cast overall. I like the dynamic between the brothers. I like that Jordana Brewster was like sneaking around the entire fucking movie, and goddamn, she was very stealthy in this movie. Uh, I really like that aspect, actually. Um, yeah, it's I like this one a lot actually, and when I go to re-rank, this one might be my third
Yes,
favorite.
that's another thing I like, and I was going to mention it.
Just go.
Character kind of sneaking around,
Hmm.
so like she's different than any of the other sort of final girls in the franchise, where she's not immediately caught, and she's kind of I don't know, sneaking around the house and everything. I kind of like that aspect to it, but that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, no, I love that. If you say something, just keep going. I'll comment on what you say. But yeah, I love this movie more than I thought I would. I would say it's the third best overall out of the entire series. Uh, like I talked about how much I really like the third movie, and I do like the 2022 movie, but this one, man, this one's the best since part two, hands down, the best since part two. I don't think it gets any better than this when it comes to the prequel remakes or whatever. Um, awesome movie. I love this one, and it also enhances the '03 movie for me, so that gives it even more bonus points in my opinion. So obviously, our combined score is 80%. How about that? We agree.
Yeah.
But guess what? You're not going to believe that it's a Scream. Our audience score, our 5 star, 80%.
Oh wow, no shit.
Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah, isn't that hilarious? Me and you give it an 80% for a combined score of 80%. And yeah, I looked at the audience 5 star ratings, and this is the third highest rated movie in the series, and it's an 80%, just barely. It's 1 point different from Texas Chainsaw 2, which got an 81%. So interesting, in my opinion. Now, do you think this is a worthy score? I know for you it is. Oh, we'll do the faculty sometime. We haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a yeah.
Seth and I both like the faculty, so we'll do that eventually. Go ahead and say what you're going to say.
Yeah, well, I think it is a from the most part over the years, from the comments I've read online, um, it seems to be a well liked movie, um, and I think for good reason. I think it's definitely one of the better ones in the franchise.
Yeah,
I
I totally
put
agree.
1, 2, and 3 above it, but this is
Mm.
really good.
Yeah, I mean, I like three quite a bit, and there's a lot of good from three. But man, I just loved watching this. You know, between the torture scene with Hoyt and the two guys, and wrapping the guy's head in saran wrap, and then poking a hole in the mouth part so he could breathe. That's fucked up. I mean, he's doing enough damage on his own, and then he does. You can get out of here if you do 10 push-ups. Awesome scenes. Those
Yeah.
are awesome scenes, and things you don't see in any of the other movies. You know, this movie brought us something different, but the same.
Well, and it also added the context of why the family's doing it. You know, they
Mm.
made a point of the story where the town is really drying up, and you know, and then these people, they don't want to leave their home, but the only way that they can survive is to eat, which is something, you know, Arlie Ermey's character Hoyt, or fake Hoyt, um, learns from his experience, I guess, you know, in war. Um, so it's great in that aspect too, where it gives context to why the family's doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and really, when you look at this movie, it's Arlie Ermey's movie. It's really his movie. They knew that he was the best part of the three
Oh
remake,
yeah.
and they brought him back and gave him more to do. And he was great. He's the leader. I don't prefer him over God damn it, what's his name? The cook, Drayton. I like him
Drayton.
better. Yeah, because he's definitely a very conflicted character with a lot of issues, and he also is a award winning. He makes this award winning chili with human meat. But I do like his character, the speech he gives at the table. We get a great dinner scene in this movie. That's one of my favorite things about the first two movies, a great dinner
Yeah,
scene, and we finally get that back.
yeah. I love when Jordana Brewster's like, uh, "Do you fuck all your cousins or just the ones you find attractive?" And then Arlie Ermey's like, "You blasphemous bitch!"
You blasphemous bitch. Yeah, that's
So
good
good.
stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of good in this one. And again, if I would say to anybody who's not a fan of the 2003 movie like myself, watch this before you watch that because it does make the '03 movie better in my opinion. Like I had a lot of fun with the characters, getting to know the family again because it's been since 2020 since I've watched either of these. And we'll pop in the second one after I watched, or well, the remake after watching the prequel. I was like, it was just continuing on that story, and it almost felt fucking seamless. It almost felt seamless, which was great because even the cinematography is very similar. Even the direction and the score, very similar stuff. So yes, I enjoy this one
Yeah.
quite a bit. I give it it's gonna be third on my ranking because I don't call me crazy, but I don't think either of these two are going to beat three for me. I
You don't think what?
I don't think either of these two will end up higher than the New Beginning. I said three. I meant the New Beginning. Either of these two. These two are shitty in my opinion.
No, I mean I kind of like Leatherface 2017, but those two definitely are not anywhere near the top spots.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch Leatherface first. Then I'm going to watch the original movie, and then I'm going to watch Texas Chainsaw 3D, and I'm going to see if any of it works. I bet you it doesn't.
I can guarantee you one thing because I did this after watching Leatherface 2017 when it first came out. It does not match up with the original. Like, you cannot believe that the character that they have as Leatherface is that Leatherface. But there is some, they do have some sort of connective tissue with, especially with, it would be the mother character who would be Alexandra Daddario's grandmother. There's the lawyer Farnsworth, minor character in 3D. They showed a younger version of him in 2017. So like those two films connect, but like connecting 2017 Leatherface, watching the original right after, it doesn't
Is it
really
jarring?
add up. It's not necessarily jarring because like I'm more positive on the 2017 film than you are.
Yes.
And I
Most
wanted
people
it.
are.
I wanted it. I wanted it to work, and this was obviously before I think I even joined the Horror Syndicate. Where
Mhm.
I immediately put in the original right after watching, and I just couldn't buy into it. I just couldn't buy into the events that took place in the 2017 film, um, even being a factor in the with the characters in the original.
Yeah. Well,
Unfortunately,
the 2013 movie. I gets a lot of hate. I think you like it less than the 2017 movie, but I don't have that huge of a problem with it. Honestly, if you take Leatherface out and just made it a different killer, it could be a fun slasher. You know. But
it's well the issue with that is like I don't hate the 2013 film at all. Um, but I just don't think it's very good. There's like some really questionable dialogue, and I'm not even talking about the "do your thing" cuz and there's just other dialogue, especially with the cops,
cops are
and
wasted. Scott Eastwood's
I
wasted.
thought he is, and there's that whole thing where the cop, I like not setting it in the '90s was kind of a missed opportunity. The whole thing with the cop using his phone going down into the house. I
Hmm.
didn't like it. The blood was digital.
Mm.
These characters they pick up some strange hitchhiker and then they bring them to her new mansion that she inherited, and then they're like, oh, you can stay here, we'll go get food. Like they totally trust the guy. I thought that was really stupid. Um, there
That's
are
more of a
some,
70s thing to
fun
me anyway.
aspects to it, and yeah, but like, and I don't mind the fact that not so much, that they made Leatherface sort of like the anti-hero. I kind of like that idea of the of the lynch mob, and then him sort of like sticking up for family, I guess. But there was a lot of missed opportunities for that film, and I'm talking about it now, just in case I'll glitch when we do that next episode.
We'll have to figure something out next week. Yeah, these are the next two and the last two Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies that we are talking about before we do our ranking show the following week. So come back next Wednesday, and hopefully Seth's connection or whatever he's doing, it sounds fine right now, dude. But I would call your cable company. I think it has something to do with that. But yeah, the 26th we're doing these two, and then on August 2nd we're doing our ranking show, and August 9th. I know he's got to have his connection ready for this. We're doing Halloween Ends, and then going into Halloween all the way through October. And October 31st, on a Tuesday, we're doing our special presentation of ranking all 13 Halloween movies, even Halloween 3, because it's fantastic. Seth, let's play a
I'm
little
looking
game.
forward.
Go ahead.
What's
Looking
that?
forward to it. I'll play a game. Just
Well,
go.
yeah, I was gonna say today at work, like I had I work in a salvage yard, and I had to go out into the yard to do some stuff, and I grabbed my phone and I put on the Halloween Ends score,
Nice.
because regardless of what you feel about that movie, the score is fucking awesome.
It is. It's really good.
And so I listened to that, and I was just like totally in the mood for Halloween now.
I have been for weeks. It's so weird.
But what were you gonna say? Something about a game?
So we got not a game. It's not Curse Your Luck. But I want you to pick three of these final women from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. You can only pick three of them. Which three are your favorite three? You've got Sally, Stretch, Michelle, Renee Zellweger, I can't remember her name, Jordana Brewster, who knows what her name is, Erin, which is the one that's her face is covered, the cousin, Leatherfaces. I think her name was something. Anyway, I can't remember any of their names, but you can pick three. Just write down the year of the movie. So you got 74, 86, 90, 90, 95, 06, 03. I don't know. Which three would you pick?
I would go with Sally, Stretch, and honestly, I'd probably go with Alexandra Daddario for two obvious big reasons.
Yes. So this image of her is the most searched image on the Horror Syndicate's website. Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna go with Stretch because I love her, Sally because I love her, and then Jordana Brewster just because she snuck around and she ended up not making it at the end. What a great ending, by the way, for the beginning. You didn't make it out. She thought she was gonna make it out. She didn't. Chainsaw through the back of the seat. So those are my three. If anybody wants to pick, feel free to pick. Not a real fun, real game. I had this image up because I put it up on the
I didn't
Facebook
put mine in
page.
order. I just
Sure. All right. So let's recap. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 03. Seth gave it a 78. I gave it a 61. A total score of 70%. And the followers have a 73. Of the beginning, 80% for Seth, 80% for me, 80% overall, 80% from the followers. That is never going to happen again. That's never going to happen again. I think that's awesome. And then, of course, next week we are covering the Texas Chainsaw 3D and Leatherface. And if you follow the Horror Syndicate Discourse show, we are talking about 2020's The Invisible Man on Sunday, followed by Poltergeist, and then jumping into August with Predator, and Aliens, and The Wicker Man, and then maybe something else after that. I'll have to figure that out yet. It was going to be Prey, but I don't think we're going to do that. I think we're going to do something else. So anyway, Seth, these two movies overall, give us a quick wrap up of what you think of the Platinum Dunes era of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise.
I think it's fairly strong. Um, Again, not one of the best franchises out there. There's not really a lot of like strong movies in the series, um, but I think they're good. They're pretty consistent. They make a lot of changes, but one of those changes is they change the family completely. So it's not the Slaughters or Sawyers; it's the Hewitts. Um, and I don't know. I think these movies are probably the last two really good ones, in my opinion. Again, I actually like the remake. Um, but yeah,
Well, I
that's all I
won't
say
reach for
about
the
that.
remake. Well, I won't reach for the remake very often. It does get better every time I watch it. If that says anything, just like Rob Zombie's 2007 Halloween film gets a little bit better every time I watch it, especially depending on the cut. But I really do love the beginning. I think it has now taken over the number three spot because nothing will ever dethrone the original or the follow up from 1986, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part Two. But yeah, the beginning is for sure the last good Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Well,
Yeah,
2022 is okay, but it's not as good as at the beginning. And yeah, the Platinum
exactly.
Dunes are pretty good. So uh, honestly, Seth, if you really look at it objectively, because there's no era for the original, there's no era for the second one. You've got the New Line '90s era, the Platinum Dunes era, and then the other one, whatever. I keep calling it stripper porno era because that's who bought the rights to it. It was some porno filmmaker, I think. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
We, you- we could call one and two the Toby Hooper era.
that's true. So this would be the second best era in my opinion. Both films are almost equally strong. The Toby Hooper era. Yeah, I like that.
I agree. I
And
agree.
yes. So this is the other than the first two movies, this is the strongest era of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Sean's probably shit his pants somewhere because I actually am praising this movie, the remake. I'm surprised the prequel got a better total score here than the remake, just in terms of their no third entries. I need to look up the box office earnings for both now. Sean did the box office for the remake, and it was he said 107, I think is what it was. I'll check real fast for the beginning because I do think it was much lower than
Well,
than the
I think the beginning, like to comment on that comment there about the prequel getting a better total score. I think it's because I think that the prequel is just better received because it does feel more like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They I think they regained a lot of the fans who maybe did care for the remake because if I remember correctly, the with the remake, Toby Hooper and Kim Henkel weren't really involved, but with the prequel, they were involved, and I think they
hmm.
made a more crowd pleasing film. And I honestly, I would say I think the beginning is better directed than the remake.
I
Nothing
agree with
against
you.
Marcus Nispel, but
Mhm.
I think what's his name, Jonathan Newsman, did a better job, and I feel like yeah, I feel like they earned the trust of a lot of fans with the beginning. I think that there was a good course correction for them.
Yeah, it's a shame that they couldn't make any sequels because of you know putting themselves in a corner. So the remake made 107.4 million on a budget of 9.5, where the beginning made a 51 million on a budget of 16. So it had a bigger budget. Um, but I think the remake might be the top grossing Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie of all time. I don't think that's a stretch.
Oh, it
Get
probably
it?
is.
Stretch.
Ah,
Oh man, two got a only made 8 million. Three made 5.8. I don't know that the beginning. I mean, the next generation made 185,000. That's cool. Yeah, then 110. Texas Chainsaw 3D came out in January, but it made 47 million. Not terrible. Texas Chainsaw 2022 did not come out in the theaters, which was a mistake in my opinion. Oh, the box office for the Leatherface was 1.5 million. Oh man, good times. Good times. Anyway, good episode overall. Sorry if about your audio again. You cleared up at the end. Maybe you should get on the stream a half an hour
I don't
early.
know. I'm gonna throw my computer or something.
I don't know. Is it your how old's your computer anyway?
Um, got it in. I got it. I think right before I started writing for the Horse Syndicate, so 2019.
Not that old then.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think you need to call your cable provider. Be like, listen, you sons of bitches. Find out like
Well,
what.
it's weird too, because like, yeah, well, like, what was it last week or whatever when we had all the big storms and we lost power for hours.
Mhm.
I couldn't connect to Wi-Fi on my phone inside the house, but I would go out into my yard and go over by the my little shed-ish area where I have my lawnmower, and I was able to go online right there, but I couldn't do it inside my house. I'd have to walk away from my house all the way over to near the river. It's
River's
fucked
got
up.
good Wi-Fi. Yeah, you need to call your goddamn internet provider.
Yeah.
Let's see, Jordan Walsh. The remake, I think, brought some elements from the OG that weren't in the remake. So yeah, the bone room. There was no bone room that bothered me. There's no dinner scene that bothered me. There's no grandpa that bothered me. They didn't chain up anybody. It just they it was a completely different movie other than the fact that it was a hitchhiker, and it was very different. So it almost doesn't even need to be a remake. If you can take the idea that it's a remake of the original movie out of your head, which I kind of did last night, it's nothing like the original movie almost at all. It really isn't. Uh, Totally different family. The house is way different. It almost looked
Well,
like
yeah,
Wayne Manor from some shots.
yeah. Well, I think that's a strong area for these movies for this era because it is different. They weren't trying to do the Sawyer's, and Leatherface was completely different, and they kind of did their own thing. It's like they took the idea of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and did their own thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't mind that there wasn't a dinner scene in the remake though. Like
Well,
I have to admit, like that's one of the things that kind of annoyed me in the original.
oh, get out of here with that. That's one of the best parts of the original. The dinner scene. I love the dinner scenes. They're my favorite. They're the highlights for me. And obviously 2022 didn't have one, but whatever.
Well,
2022 did have a great try anything and you're
I, I,
canceled,
I
bro.
yeah, I mean I've grown to like not hate it, but like when I first watched the original, like I was just like, come on, shut this bitch up already.
Well, she does scream a lot, yeah.
With all the screaming. Yeah. Uh, but I mean, I understand where you're coming from. There's certain things that you wanted to see and they didn't do. And it was completely different, so I could see where like a huge TCM fan would be upset with the remake, with how much they kind of changed everything. But
Well, I mean, at this point, based on their track record, I mean, at this point, 2003, why even label it as a remake? Because none of the movies, I mean, two follows one for sure, but three, there's barely any connective tissue between two and three, and then four, there's zero connective tissue between any of that and any other movies. So at this point, why bother saying, "Oh, this is a remake"? Why not just call it Texas Chainsaw Massacre something else, rather than framing it as a remake? I think that's where they lost me, is framing it as a remake. It could have been just another Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and I probably would have loved it, honestly. But framing it as a remake ruined it for me. I know that's stupid from my point, from me. For
well,
maybe
I think the problem with that is, well, I think the, from their perspective though, like there's a certain stigma, right, with the sequels. So they were trying to be like, oh well, we're not gonna be like those sequels. We're gonna do better. You know what I mean? I think that was sort of like the mentality of we don't want to just be another. We don't want people to think we're just another sequel. So we're just gonna do a remake with the promise of this is gonna be better than what's come before.
Yeah, and it
If any of
did.
that.
It really did. It's oh, there he goes. I'm just gonna end the show. It did do better than the previous sequels, especially at the box office. So Seth is gone. I'm gonna end the episode. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Sorry about all the technical issues. Um, we'll come back next week, hopefully with no issues, and talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre and our Texas Chainsaw. I keep forgetting about that, and Leatherface. Also, titles I don't really care for. Um, we already had a Leatherface once. So anyway, have a great night and watch more horror. Don't forget, on Sunday we'll be back with our regular show, the Discourse Show, and the Invisible Man. But that's it. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies are almost in the book, and we'll get started on Halloween on August 9th, which I'm pretty excited about. Here's some beautiful women for you to close the night off.